Have you ever made a choice and then, maybe a day later you think to yourself, why in the world did I do that? We literally make hundreds of decisions every single day, but how many of them are we actually in control of? Well, today, we're going to pull back the curtain on your brain.
Okay, let's just jump right in with a question for you. When you're facing a big decision, do you think of yourself as a completely logical, rational person? Come on, be honest. I think most of us, we like to think we are.
You know the picture we have in our heads, right? Someone calmly listing out all the pros and cons, weighing every possible outcome, and then just methodically picking the absolute best option? It's a really nice idea for sure, but here's the thing, it's mostly a myth.
So this idealized way of thinking, it actually has a formal name. It's called normative models. Economists and theorists came up with them to describe how a perfectly logical person should act to get the best possible result. But there's a big catch.
Yeah, the catch is us. It's humans. Decades and decades of psychological research have shown that while we can be rational, a lot of the time we just aren't. The research calls it being incompletely rational. Our choices are constantly being pushed and pulled by all these invisible forces.
So, if we're not these perfectly rational beings, what is going on inside our heads? Well, the answer, and this is pretty amazing, lies in understanding that your brain is basically running two very different operating systems at the exact same time. This whole idea comes from the Nobel Prize-winning psychologist Daniel Kahneman. He said we have two ways of thinking. System 1 is your gut reaction. It's automatic, it's emotional, and it's always on. System 2, on the other hand, is your conscious, analytical mind. It's the part that solves math problems. But here's the deal. It's kind of lazy, and it takes real effort to get it going. And the kicker? We spend almost all of our time running on System 1.
So how does this sort of tug-of-war between our fast and slow thinking actually play out in the real world? Okay, let's look at some absolutely fascinating evidence that shows just how easily our choices can be shaped, even manipulated.
This quote right here, it gets to the absolute heart of one of the most powerful influences on our decisions. See, it's not just about what you're choosing, it's all about how that choice is framed. Let's use a classic example. Picture this. You're at the grocery store. You see a package of ground beef, and the label proudly says 75% lean. Sounds pretty good, right? It feels healthy, positive, a smart choice.
Okay, but now, right next to it, there's another package. It's the exact same meat inside, but this label says 25% fat. So, how do you feel about that one? All of a sudden, it seems way less appealing, doesn't it? Even though it's literally the identical product.
And that, right there, is a perfect illustration of the framing effect. Your fast, intuitive System 1 reacts instantly to the emotional frame. Lean is good, fat is bad. Your slow, analytical System 2 knows it's the same thing, but honestly, it often doesn't even get a chance to chime in because System 1 has already made a call. Now, framing is just one way our thinking gets bent and shaped. It turns out our brains have this whole toolbox full of other little tricks to make life easier, and they rely heavily on gut feelings and mental shortcuts.
These mental shortcuts are called heuristics. A really easy way to think of them is just as rules of thumb that your brain uses to make complex choices simpler. They're what lets you make quick judgments without getting totally overwhelmed. And while they're incredibly fast and efficient, that speed, well, it comes at a price. They can lead us into making predictable, systematic mistakes.
So, for example, there's the availability heuristic, which makes us overestimate the odds of things we hear about a lot, like plane crashes. There's the representativeness heuristic, which makes us judge something based on how well it fits a stereotype. And then there's anchoring, which makes us rely way too heavily on the first piece of information we hear, like the sticker price on a car.
But wait, it's not just about these clever mental shortcuts. The whole picture is actually a lot more complex. Our decisions are also deeply, deeply tangled up with our emotions and with the people all around us.
Yeah, contrary to those old models of pure rationality, we now know that you just can't separate thinking from feeling. Our emotions aren't a bug in the system, they are a fundamental feature of how we decide things.
So you've got affect, those subtle good or bad vibes that color how we see risk. We're also terrible at affective forecasting. That's predicting how we're going to feel in the future. And a really big one, anticipating regret. That powerful fear of making the wrong choice that can either paralyze us or push us toward the safest possible option.
And on top of all these internal things, all the heuristics and emotions, we have to remember one more really important thing. We are social creatures. Our decisions are constantly being shaped by the people around us, whether we realize it or not.
So here's the crucial takeaway. Any single decision you make is being pulled in 4 different directions at once. It's being shaped by how the problem is framed, by the mental shortcuts your brain is taking, by your current emotional state, and by the social context you're in.
One of the most powerful social influences is called social proof. It's this deep-seated tendency we have to look at what other people are doing and just assume that it's the correct thing to do. It's why online reviews are so incredibly powerful. It's why we're way more likely to eat at a busy restaurant than an empty one. We're basically outsourcing our decision-making to the crowd.
Okay, so our brains use shortcuts, they're swayed by emotion, and they just copy other people. I know, it might sound a little bleak, but understanding how all this works is actually incredibly empowering.
Let's just reframe this for a second. Our rationality isn't broken. It's just not what we thought it was. It's limited, sure, but more importantly, it's influenced in consistent, predictable ways. These aren't just random errors. They are systematic biases that we can actually learn to spot.
Look, the goal here isn't to get rid of System 1 and become some perfectly logical robot. That's impossible, for one, and it would be totally exhausting. The real goal is just awareness. By simply being aware of these invisible forces, you can start to question your gut reactions. You can know when it's time to just slow down and let your deliberate System 2 have a say.
And that leaves us with one last question for you to take with you. Think back to the last important decision you made. You know, maybe it was a big purchase, a career move, maybe a personal choice. Now that you know about the 2 systems, ask yourself, who was really in the driver's seat? Was it your fast, intuitive System 1 or your slow, analytical System 2? I think the answer just might surprise you.